Yo, what is going on, guys? So apparently there is a man deficit out here in dating. Apparently there are no more husbands, there are no more boyfriends, there are no more partners to go around to all of these women. And we are going to be taking a listen to a dating expert explain the situation to us. So without further ado, guys, let's jump into the video. Don't forget to leave your thoughts and your comments.
There's a man deficit going on in dating right now. Let's talk about it. First, welcome back to book club. This is part 1 of Datanomics. We are going to be going through this book chapter by chapter. It's all going to be posted on TikTok, so be sure to follow to stay updated. This book talks about how dating became a lopsided numbers game and what to do about it. We're going to get into chapter 1. It is appropriately titled The Man Deficit. The chapter starts with an anecdote about a woman that the author knows. This woman on paper has it all. She went to an Ivy League school. She's at the top of her career. Says she has friends. She's attractive. She's personable. She's charming, and she's dating. But this woman just can't find Mr. Right. The author noticed that there was a lot of women who felt like this, who had built this amazing life for themselves, but couldn't seem to find someone to do life with. He asked,
You guys know, and I'm sure many of you know why this is the case. The reason why these women are single is not because there is a lack of men. There are so many men on the face of the planet. There are so many men who are single. There are so many guys who would love to have a relationship, okay? But the reason why these girls are single is not because there are no men. It's not because the men suck. It's not because dating is skewed against women. It's actually because a lot of these girls refuse to lower their standards. The women who go to the Ivy League schools and they think that they're funny and charming and fantastic and they make X amount of money, they don't want to date a man who is quote unquote below them, and they would rather be single. Guys, women would literally rather be single and alone with their cats, okay, having some side piece dude, than actually quote unquote lower herself to a man. Right? They always want to date a guy who is above them. This is why you can have an abundance of men for these women to choose from, and yet somehow magically, guys, they are all single and apparently dating is skewed. Let's keep going.
asked himself this: what if most of the good men are taken? What if a disproportionate number of single guys out there really are commitment phobes just looking for a good time? What if it doesn't just seem as if there's a third more single women than men in every semi-upscale bar in Manhattan, Dallas, or LA? What if the demographics actually bear that out? What if hookup culture on today's college campuses and the wild ways of the big city singles scene have little to do with changing values and a whole lot to do with lopsided gender ratios? What if, in other words, the man deficit were real? The numbers actually prove that his theory is real, and we're going to talk more about that. He goes on to say, according to 2012 population estimates from the U.S. Census Bureau, there's 5.5 million college-educated women in the U.S. ages 22 to 29 versus 4.1 million.
I'm going to pause it here and talk for a moment about the point that she made, saying that all of the good men are taken. Okay, not all of the good men are taken. The problem is you have so many women who are competing for such a small amount of men. Okay, it doesn't mean that the rest of the men are bad. It doesn't mean that the top percentage of dudes are the only good ones. It's just that those men are the only men that women have eyes for. They don't view the other 85, I would argue well over 80% of men in the eyes of women are not worth competing for. So how are you going to sit here and say it's a man deficit when really it just means that men are not meeting your unrealistic expectations? Okay, the idea that this hookup culture isn't really contingent on the newfound values that we have is really so far detached from reality. I don't know where to begin, guys. Hookup culture, things like Tinder, Instagram, Bumble, Hinge, whatever application, have done nothing but a disservice to the modern day relationship. Right, these things have effectively. I've had people say, "Oh, you know, Taylor, why do you tell women to get rid of Instagram? Why do you think that Instagram is such a big deal?" Guys, we all know that social media is a terrible thing for relationships. Absolutely terrible. Instagram is effectively a dating application. Women have so many options available to them. It's not a matter of, okay, there are no men, and this is why I can't find a man. That's just straight up coping. There are so many dudes on the face of this planet who would love to have a relationship, who would love to get married, even though it's a terrible idea in the year 2022, who want to have a family, but they can't because these girls are hooked on the top percentage of dudes. And even if they get with a quote unquote regular guy, they're going to view herself, they're going to view themselves as, oh, I'm better than him, or I deserve more because that top percentage guy, well, I got him for 20 minutes at one point in my life and he came over and, we had a thing going on. Okay, a thing is not a relationship. Just because you are able to get with a guy for a short period of time does not mean that he wants a relationship with you and does not entitle you to commitment from a high quality guy, quote unquote. This is the funny thing, guys, is women will say men are not entitled to our bodies. Fair enough, okay? But at the same time, a lot of women will somehow feel entitled to a man's commitment, which to me is just incredibly backwards. Let's keep going with the video.
College educated men. In the 30 to 39 age group, there's 7.4 million women versus 6 million men who are college educated. I think it's important to call out that this doesn't mean having a college degree in any way makes someone a better partner. But these imbalanced ratios have effects on people long after graduation and changes the whole landscape of dating. And I think
I don't understand why you would bring up a point like that and then say that it doesn't matter, okay? If you're bringing up the fact that there are more educated women than there are men, and you're linking this to, oh, well, there are less available men, maybe, and credit to this woman for considering the fact that the college degree, I don't understand, it's useless. It's incredibly useless. Okay, if you're not going to date, just because you have a college degree, you're going to sit there and say, oh, well, I'm not going to date someone who doesn't have one. Okay, that's your problem. If you're single as a consequence of refusing to date people who don't have a college degree, you are so clueless. It just goes to show how useless the damn degrees are themselves a lot of the time when people can't even rationalize themselves out of that. Oh, I have a college degree, therefore I must be more intelligent, or I have the ability to make more money. A lot of these degrees are straight up useless. Okay, therefore I need a man who's at least qualified the same level I am or more so. Even though you can have a plumber who's literally quadrupling the amount that the woman earns, she doesn't want a plumber because a plumber doesn't have a degree. That's not a man problem, that's a you problem.
It's important to call out that this has been going on for decades at this point. Women started outperforming men in college around the invention of the birth control pill. We actually talked about that a lot in our last book club. It's my playlist. Author ends the chapter by saying, this is not an advice book per se, but I do believe that enlightening women and men about how education, career, and geography can affect one's dating and marriage prospects can help everybody make better, more informed life decisions. To wrap up the chapter, I want to say that, of course, having a partner in your life cannot make you happy. Only you can make yourself feel happy and fulfilled. If you are looking to get into a serious relationship and are looking around asking yourself, where are all the good men? This book is going to explain how we ended up in today's dating culture.
I love how everything just has to be extrapolated to forces beyond the individual's control, right? So a lot of these girls, they will say things like this woman just said here. They'll say, I'm single. Where are all of the good men? Oh, it's not my fault. It's society's fault. It's the way that things are set up. It's some external factor that's keeping me single. Right? And the fantastic thing about these videos, guys, and the reason why I cover them is because it shows just how little accountability there actually is there. You're not going to fix your problem because you're not taking accountability. You can't just have a problem. I was having a discussion with a friend of mine recently, guys, about this, right? If you have a problem in your life, it becomes so much harder to solve it if you refuse to take accountability for the fact that you have some role to play in said problem. Okay, if you have a problem and you're like, well, I don't have any responsibility or accountability to take here, the odds of you solving that problem are so incredibly low. So when you come here and say, I can't find a good man, where are all of the good men? Oh, it's just the circumstances. It's not going to solve anything. You haven't taken any accountability. You haven't looked at it and said, hey, wait a minute, what can I actually do about this situation? But guys, I wanted to pull up some of the comments before we jump into today's Reddit story, because it seems as though some of the comments on this video actually had some sense. So let's jump into this. And we're going to be covering some more videos from this woman in the near future. I believe I have some lined up because her book club is really just more of this. She literally has a book coming up. I think we'll be covering it very soon, maybe even the next episode, where it's titled How to Date Men When You Hate Men. So I'm sure that'll be an interesting one. But let's take a look at some of these comments here. And some of these actually seem to have some sense about them. So Jackson here says, I can't remember the exact numbers, but 80% of women are trying to date the top 10% of men. Adam here says, feels like what you meant to say is there's a deficit of men who meet women's standards, correct? So basically, Bradley here says, basically the women are being picky. I mean, fair enough, not a bad thing, but that's what I took from that. Also, the idea of that women having a set of economic standards that effectively rules out 75% of the population is the man's problem is absurd. Yeah, but here's the thing, okay? The women can choose to date whoever they want. I have nothing against that, okay? If you're not interested in me, if you're not interested in men as a whole, or 75% of the dude, or whatever the case may be, if you're not interested in a particular man, whether that be me or someone else, I could not care less, okay? Go knock yourself out. You want to chase the millionaires? You want to chase the dudes at the top? You want to chase the dudes who are jacked, incredibly tall? That's completely fine. I don't particularly care, okay? But when you sit here and you scream on social media that you can't find a man and it's somehow men's problem, now we're going to have a disagreement, because you can make all the choices that you want. You can go out there, you can date the bad boys, you can create your OF accounts, you can do whatever it is that you like to do surrounding these things, as long as you're not harming someone. I personally could not care less what you do with your life. But the moment you get on the internet and you cry incredibly loudly about issues like these, we're going to have a disagreement. So let's continue here. Bainsley here says, as someone with a degree, it sounds like this perspective has more to do with class and a tangible scarcity. Alex here says, it's all men's fault, eh? Sorry some of us dropped out to make sure our siblings could eat and avoid homelessness. Tom here says, I say blame Hollywood for painting the picture of perfect relationships. People don't realize you're going to need to work at it and quit early. I don't say blame Hollywood. Like, yes, there is some blame to be laid at Hollywood's feet here, right, for trying to paint this Disney narrative, whatever the case may be. But at the end of the day, women could solve this problem. Like, realistically, they absolutely could. Islam here says, you're looking for good men and I'm sitting right here, laughing emoji. Yeah, you see, commenting things like this, guys, girls really don't care. And I've said this before, but like, we as dudes, we seem to get it in our head that girls actually give a crap about morals. Right, like, oh yeah, I want a guy who's got really fantastic morals. It really does not enter into the equation, and I copped a lot of flack for saying that things like morals and things like humor are grossly overrated. What comes first, guys, is, are you attractive or not to the woman? Like, I think a lot of dudes and a lot of girls will sit there and say, oh, I really love dudes who are funny, right? I really love dudes who are nice. But not really. They don't typically respect these men. The attraction comes first, guys, is what I'm trying to say here. I think being hilarious, using a whole bunch of emojis is just completely and utterly overrated. Now let's continue into today's Reddit story, and this is what I believe the title of today's episode will be based around. So basically, we have a 22-year-old woman who rejects a guy who is a 20-year-old man, and now she is questioning everything. And this is what happens when girls will go out there dating, they will reject a guy, and then they turn around after the fact and go, oh, wait a minute, I kind of want to have him in my back pocket. Or maybe he does something with his life that makes me want to keep him around now, whatever the case may be. So let's, figure out what exactly has happened in this particular story. So I, a 22-year-old female, rejected a guy who's a 20-year-old male, and I'm questioning everything. This is kind of weird, because usually what you'll see is girls will date dudes who are older than them. But of course, this leans into why it didn't really go anywhere, right? Like, what I've noticed, guys, and what girls tend to date dudes who are older than them, right? When a dude who's younger than them comes along, typically they'll view the guy as, well, he has less life experience, he's not fit to take care of me, perhaps he's not respectable, or he doesn't really understand what's going on in the world more than I do, so she loses attraction for him. So it's quite weird that you see stories where you have a girl who's older and a guy who's younger, but it makes sense that things don't work out. Let's continue. Too long didn't read. I rejected a guy who fell in love very quickly and not clingy when I couldn't reciprocate his feelings in that short time. So basically, the dude drove her off because he was too clingy. I still care for him, and we left an open window. Is it possible to reconcile later, even if I'm unsure, or is my guilt hurting him, making it a fake desire, and I should let him go? So basically, what's happened is this woman has found this guy to be too clingy, but she wants to keep him in the back pocket in case he grows up and blossoms into something down the line which can be beneficial to her. Look at this. Is it possible to reconcile later, even if I'm unsure? Guys, I've said this many, many times on the channel. I don't care if you're a dude watching this. I don't care if you're one of the 5 women who watch this channel, okay? If somebody is like unsure, they're doing this unsure thing, you don't need to be there, guys. Right? Men have this amazing ability to say, oh, she's unsure about me. Let me just try and prove to her why I'm such a great choice. Like, let me just sit there. Let me disrespect myself. Let me chase this person. And maybe one day she'll see my, my worth. This is the same thing as girls going out here and they'll chase that one bad boy for a very long amount of time, and they'll ignore all of the guys who would actually give them a relationship, right? They'll chase that one guy who doesn't want them. Dudes will do the same thing, where like they'll invest so heavily in a girl that all they'll do is push her away, and she's only viewing him as kind of this thing that she can potentially have later on if things go south with the other guys that she's actually interested in. Look at all these like little sad faces, guys, and like this little flake of empathy here, as if she actually gives a crap about the guy. Basically, she just wants permission to use him, is what this is. She says, so I, a 22-year-old female, met this guy who was a 20-year-old male online 2 months ago. We started off as friends, but he quickly changed the narrative to romance. Guys, if you're interested in a girl, never started off by being friends, no matter what women will tell you. I went along with it because he seemed nice, but he quickly got very invested. Within the first 2 weeks, he told me that he loved me. We talked it out and we decided to try and take it slow. For some time, he did, but soon after, he came back to acting like we were a couple. To be fair, for some time, I actually started feeling okay because I realized that I care for him. But I made sure he knew we were dating and not a couple, at least until our in-real-life meeting, which would take a few months. We live in different countries. I needed to have that conversation with him many times because he acted like I was his girlfriend. But otherwise, we did get pretty close. We'd FaceTime almost every day, share secrets and problems. He was my best friend for that time. Best friend. Disgusting. He made efforts, but when it came to visiting each other, he'd always expect that I would come to him because he's scared of traveling and his parents won't let him. He acted really immature and didn't take my safety into consideration. Plus, I was the one setting it all up. I brought it up to him, and it made him cry, and he told me he would change. And in some ways he did, but it was all still pretty overwhelming. I felt very pressured to fall in love quickly, and he would spare me recently even when I said I needed space. So 2 days ago I told him delicately, as much as I feel for him, I feel too pressured and I don't want to lead him on, so I'm saying goodbye. This guy is a clown. Guys, I absolutely have to say this guy is a clown, and I've got to always roast the dudes who will come into situations doing this. And I'm not roasting the dude to make fun of him or to say that he's stupid or anything like that, guys, but this is what a lot of us as men do, particularly when we're younger. Okay, we think that investing into these things, that going, oh, you know what, I'm going to show her how much I care, is an effective way to get someone to care about you back. Like, as if it's some way to engage in reciprocity, right? If you show someone that you care, well, then obviously they're going to show it back. But that's just not how these situations work, guys. Oftentimes, if you show these things to girls, it is actually incredibly repulsive to them, right? Which brings me to the next point, which is that when girls say, oh, you know, I feel like he's too clingy or he's pushing too much for a relationship, I always say, okay, cool. I don't have any empathy for you then when you go out there chasing dudes who are not interested in you. When you become 30 years of age and you say, hey, I just want a guy who cares about me. I mean, the guy who cares about you, this guy's willing and able and ready to invest in you right off the bat. Okay, but you don't want him because it's too much pressure. You know, being in a relationship, too much pressure, right? Having a connection with someone, too much pressure. What are you going to do? You're going to go with the guy who puts no pressure on you, who never pushes you for a relationship, who doesn't push to do anything, who doesn't push for marriage, and then you're going to complain when you get that man because he won't be molded into what exactly it is that you want. So what are you going to do? You're eventually going to, you're going to have kids with him, then maybe you're going to ditch him, you're going to go back to a guy like this who will provide for you, and the cycle will just continue over and over again. So the part where I'm supposed to have empathy is just completely removed. It absolutely is. Because the thing is, these men are always available to these women, right? Of varying degrees. Let's keep going. I think he got so invested in me because he wanted love so badly. He was more in love with the idea of me than the real me. I still cared for him deeply, but I couldn't fall in love. Look at that, guys. I couldn't fall in love. And going on for months when I feel stressed by this and he gets deeper in his feelings would just hurt more down the line for the both of us. He was devastated, but we agreed that maybe we reconcile at a better time. The fact that this guy is emotionally damaged by a girl that he met on the internet tells you all that you need to know, guys. You shouldn't be in this guy. I actually agree with her to an extent here. The guy doesn't even know the woman. He doesn't even know her, really. You haven't even met in real life, so I can totally see what she's actually saying here. I feel terrible. I know he's taking it so hard, and I can't help but feel like a monster. He's my friend, and I miss him, but this is not working. I keep thinking if we got back later, would it even be okay? I want it, but I'm scared it would just be a cycle that he's sure we're going to be together forever, and I would still be deciding. Yes, you know, the classic, guys, I'm in a relationship. How many times have we seen this, right? Where a woman's married, or a woman's in a relationship with a guy, and then it's like, oh, yeah, I'm in a relationship, but I'm still deciding. This is called hypergamy, guys. Okay, when women are still out here looking for the bigger and better option. Most girls won't actually ask for permission to do this. They just go out there, they get married, and they do it anyway. Maybe they'll have like a bit of introspection where they ask the question to their female friends, and then their female friends will say, oh, queen, you deserve it. Right, let's keep going. But he treated me well, so is there a sense in staying in a relationship where I'm not in love but care for him? It could end nicely, but if he gave me a bit more time and space, is that reconciliation possible, or should I just let him go? So obviously the guy is just incredibly at fault here for pushing the girl, but I just love how this woman is trying to take him as an option because she still wants to explore her other ones, which is just absolutely hilarious to me. But guys, we are going to be leaving today's episode there. Remember to leave your thoughts and your comments. Don't forget to subscribe to our other content creators, Hadan from Peace of Mind and Detective Org. Guys, they do similar content to myself. Their channels will be linked in the video description as always. So make sure that you go and show them some love, and I will see you guys in the next episode. Peace.